Let it be known that the true light shines in every woman and man that cometh into the world. The true light that shineth in the darkness, but the darkness comprehendeth it not. Let us all within earshot of this true light fellowship bear witness to the true light within, that we may, like the real and living Messiah, Yahshua Christ, whom many know today as Jesus Christ, pick up and bear our own cross, that we may be worthy of the Messiah by way of the Christ or Christ consciousness, known also as the first resurrection. And as we are now living in these times, let us all rise from our sleep and slumber and do the works of the Most High Heavenly One, this day and every day, as we say, Amun, Amun, Amun.
So Namastu again. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's alright, just show up. 50 to 80% of success is just showing up. Right? That's what we're going to keep saying, because we need to always remember what we're doing. And it's not an easy work. It's not an easy task to raise a people that really and truly, for many reasons, don't think that they need to be raised, don't feel that they need to be raised, don't feel that they want to be raised. And so, again, for those people who are celebrating Easter, we say Happy Easter to you. In the Holy Qubtic Church, we're going to take you back to a time, and that time is being resurrected again in this day and time. And so far as in ancient Africa, around this time of year, we had a national holiday that was referred to as austere, which comes out of the original sacrificial shepherd Asaru. And hence, the message or the theme of our message today, our sermon, is bringing the body of Asaru back together. Now, this reality is something that is obviously new to many people, and so therefore, as the Qubtic Church, we always remind you that we are a teaching church, and so today we're going to teach you a little bit about yourself, and hopefully you can benefit from it, or you see the need to benefit from it as we bring you this message today. And so we jump right into the reality of what this day and time truly was, as many observe different practices based out of our original Cameroon realities. So Asaru was the original sacrificial shepherd over 26,000 years ago. And that's a long time to wrap your head around. But when you understand cycles within cycles, you will know that that really isn't a very long time at all. But over 26,000 years ago, with the establishment of the Qubtic Church, we as Cameroonians, or ancient Africans of the Qubtic Church, implemented a national holiday called austere that came to an end after a 4-day ritual. During this ritual, the sacrificial shepherd Asaru was put to death, was buried, and then disappeared on Friday. This day we refer to as the loss of Asaru, which of course today has become known as Good Friday. The holy day was and still is observed at the end of the first week following the vernal equinox, which occurred in and around March 22nd, taken from the zodiac of Dendera, wherein the Asaru solar biological sign begins on this day, March 22nd. So in our religious calendar, March 22nd begins the month of Asaru. And even in the Gregorian calendar, this year, March 20th, they recognized or said that the vernal equinox was March 20th. which brought in spring. Okay? Keep that in mind. The Monday after the celebration ended was called the Breath of Life and was the happiest day in the Qubtic Church, as it represented that the Most High Heavenly Father, Anere, has always sent us warners and guides, all of whom have, like the Messiah Yahshua, been willing to lay down their lives. It goes on further to say, even further during this 4-day celebration, people got rid of their old clothes and wore their new and brightest garments. These 4 days of the guardian angelic being Asaru represent the 4 points of the solstices, as well as the 4 days of Asaru being dead and resurrected. Even the egg that was used during this time excuse me, to celebrate symbolized renewed life, because all creatures, including humanity, began life in an egg. The various colors they were painted symbolize the various colors of the visible spectrum of light, which are produced by the sun, the visible image of the manifested and unmanifested divinity known as Anere, something which you, as members of humanity who decide to join the Qubtic Church, must learn. It is known as the science of the primordial sun. Alright? So, without going too much further into that reality, because that is something that as we progress in the Holy Qubtic Church, we will begin to celebrate, we will begin to revive this reality and bring it to the forefront, alright, as early as next year. Alright, so this is why we're educating you this year, so that next year as we celebrate, you know what you're celebrating and why you're celebrating it. Come on? And so, it still ties in, however, with the message that we have for you today. And if we go into the original books of the Bible, on page 219, excuse me, coming out of book number 12, the book of the Tamarind Adamo, many around the world are celebrating Resurrection Sunday. And in the Holy Qubtic Church, we don't discourage people from celebrating any time of the year the way that they feel is necessary for them to celebrate. But we also understand it's important for us as Karastians, as Atonis, as those that have the privilege of reading the angelic mysteries. It is important for us to bring forth the realities of what this day and time is. And so today we read from the original books of the Bible, the book of the Tamarind Adamo. On page 219, verse 70 is where we begin. And it says, this is the book of the generations of the Adama group of Atum, which were not only males, but were more importantly, were born forth both from the wombs of and had females amongst them. So they were not only males, but were more importantly, they were born forth both from the wombs of and had females amongst them. And this is made clear in the book of Genesis chapter 5, where both the male and the female are referred to as Adam. Alright? Coming out of the Tamarind Atum, A-T-U-M. Thereby this book of the Tamarind Adamo was recorded by the very hands of the elder angelic host Tahuti, utilizing a script which many refer to as 8 or tree script. So when they talk about these trees in the Garden of Eden, they weren't actual trees, which is another sermon in and of itself. But Tahuti, one of the guardian angelic hosts that ends up in your Bible as Melchizedek or Michael or Malachi, was the one responsible for scribing many of or much of the information that you read today concerning religion, sacred societies, etc., etc. So this was not a tree, but a script called a tree, called 8, A-T E-S, out of which was born the countless world doctrines and myths relating trees to knowledge. Okay, so when you turn the pages of a book, you would say one page is it's a leaf, right? And so we still recognize this reality whether we know it or not. Yet, with this, humanity must rejoice in knowing that by the divine willpower of Ane Ray, we, the guardian angelic host, do provide for you from within and around you at all times. And so it was that just after the great rebirth of Mother Earth and the countless calamities which did befall the preceding stage of humanity, at the end of that universal cycle, the present time cycle which humanity lives in began. So we talk about cycles within cycles. And we're going through a transition period from one cycle into the next. As a matter of fact, we've made the transition as far as we're in now what is being referred to, or what is known in the Holy Qubtic Church as the age of Baruti, which in the Greco-Roman calendars they would say the age of Aquarius. Alright? And anytime there's a period of transition, there are calamities, there are floods, volcanoes, tornadoes. They just had locusts. I forget which part of the world it was. It was Egypt too, because it was another place as well. See, so they had the Egyptian plague. All right, but I think maybe another place like New Zealand or something like that. But not only in one place, in different places, you're having things happen. And what has happened is, as we read the Bible, we feel as if things, when we talk about the flood, when we talk about calamities, we feel as if everything happened all at once. And it didn't really happen like that. It's just the way it was recorded. It appears to be that way. Just like when they show you the movie 2012, they make it seem as if everything happened over a period of 2 hours. Right? Because that's how long the movie had to be. Right? But it's actually happening right now. And so it ushered in a new day and time, which is what's happening now. That time period was an era which the Tamarians, or ancient Africans, called Zed Tefi, or the first time. Some people say Zed Tefi, right? Zed Tefi, wherein we, the guardian angelic host, incarnated on Tar Earth in order to guide humanity by initiating as many as were worthy amongst the survivors of the great calamities into the essentials of true culture and true religious identity within the sacred precincts of the Holy Qubtic Church. So that's what's happening now. The guardian angelic hosts are incarnating, and they're bringing forth the angelic mysteries, and they are finding those that are worthy, those who have survived the calamities, not just earthquakes and tornadoes, but the calamity of slavery, the calamity of colonialism, the calamity of having everything that makes you stripped away from you, but you still standing, you still showed up. And so in showing up, you are restored, you are resurrected. It goes on to say, verse 72, those before you absorbed these words of truth, which held that the legacy of humanity, which was recorded at that time by the guardian angelic host Tahuti, taught that this tree language, which dealt with the harmonic sciences of the angelic mysteries, did actually affect the DNA of all physical beings. Now this is key. This is very, very, very important, because the languages, the message, even in English, alright, but more importantly in Tamaric, our original language, the original tones, dealt with the science of harmonics. And these sciences were and are so important that they allow for us to perform great feats even today, in this day and time, where people feel as if it's just about getting a book and reading it and sounding heavy and wearing the biggest unk, and you can smell me from around the corner because they got so much oils on. You know what I'm saying? And that's people's way of expressing what they refer to as their spirituality. But these were sciences. And so today, we look in another one of our publications, The Power. We're going to stick a pin right there in the original books of the Bible and come back. But the power of the ancients, their attributes and elements in you. And from page 2, let's see, it's page 236. Matter of fact, let's jump out to page 235. Yes, page 235. And so in the Holy Qubtic Church, we end our services reciting the 99 sacred names of Nassau Elohim. And the question is, are these 99 guardian angelic hosts just merely names? Because we could say the names and not know why we're saying them, and therefore we would not benefit from reciting them the way that they're supposed to be recited. And it reads, they are more than just names. They are manifested names, which allows for each of these principles to manifest in and through you. So remember now, we're talking about the actual harmonic sciences of the angelic mysteries that did actually affect the DNA of all physical beings. So these names manifest in and through you. These manifested guardian angelic hosts names gave birth to the 99 manifested energies. Each of these deities has his or her hidden or sacred name in tones that reveals their powers for the use by their offspring, which is you, through the bloodline. This is why within Christianity you have been taught you have to be saved by the blood. Amun. This is made possible because each of these elements has hidden qualities or sacred energies vibrating also in tones that reveal latent powers, and by the alchemist's proper use, the elements can be unleashed or molecules altered to create wonderful feats by those linked by blood. You will begin to do these things in the Holy Qubtic Church. You have already begun to do it, whether you know it or not. Because by virtue of the fact that we have this building, and by virtue of the fact that we're reading from our own scriptures, and by virtue of the fact that we're doing many things in and of ourselves, it has already begun. And therefore the body of Asaru has already begun to come back together. Now DNA is a very complicated thing, but we have to begin to tap into it. And so while I was at Tuskegee University, they had a satellite program that was a part of the Human Genome Project, whereby they were trying to understand just what we're talking about today, but without saying it. Right? So what is the genome? The genome is the study of genes, which started in Tamaray. Its Tamarayan roots, or ancient African roots, are evidenced by the word nome. Genome. A nome is what we call our states in Tamaray. So in the United States of America, you have the state of Florida, state of Alabama, state of New York, etc. We would refer to them as nomes. Yes? A nome is what we call our states in Tamaray, or ancient Africa, under the title Sebat. S-E-B-A-T. The Tamarayan Ancient African Genome Study allows you to learn the sequence of the human genetic structure, which allows for a better understanding of how and when genes are activated and what commands they give to the various protein molecules whose actions they describe. We're in the middle of a chemistry class right now on Resurrection Sunday, bringing the body of Asaru back together, because this is how it was brought back together, not by some spookism, not because somebody tells you somebody resurrected and you're supposed to just believe it. Does it happen? What the masters of old called the Iyigi, I-G-I-G-I, I-G-I, is how it's spelled. And their children, the ancients, or the Etherians, the Nitaru, realized long ago is that the basic molecules of life contain the secret of life. The basic molecules of life contain the secret of life, which permits these organisms to store themselves as a set of blueprints and convert these stored information back into live metabolism. With this knowledge, they were able to store themselves in the DNA or the blueprint of their children, and at an appointed time trigger this blueprinted information, which allows them to live again, thus gaining eternal life. So the resurrection that we are seeking, the resurrection that we should be celebrating, is the resurrection of the alchemy, the guardian angelic hosts that are a part of our very DNA and RNA, and they're waiting to come through us. They're waiting to do what the scientists today still can't figure out, how those pyramids were built. Still can't figure out how a people were able to be so sophisticated, scientifically and otherwise, but lived thousands of years before what they refer to as the zenith of mankind, which we know it couldn't be, because we know how to build churches, mosques, ashrams, government buildings, any kind of building, but they cannot figure out how to build those pyramids. But those secrets are in you and have to be brought out, have to be resurrected out of you. So there are 3 billion pairs of DNA which describe and hold the key to making a human being. 3 billion with a B pairs. And in order to tell cells which of the 20 amino acids to string together in order to form the thousands of proteins which make up billions of life forms on this planet, the double helix was decoded by these masters. So even in amino acids, amun, yes? And so the double helix had to be decoded. The ancients such as Tahuti, Khunum, etc. were engaged in an intense decryption as they caused eggs to hatch, seeds to germinate, fungus to spread, and bacteria to divide. The word decryption itself has as its root the word crypt, which is a burial chamber or a tomb, which takes you back to the pyramids, the purpose of mummification and cryogenics. So they didn't understand why people were mummified back then. And the reason why they were mummified is because if they could save one cell for this day and time, when the gods would reincarnate or resurrect back on the planet and have those cells animated, then they know that they could live on for eternity. Because when you say eternity, you're simply saying energy turning in a cycle perpetually, forever and ever. So this word crypt, taking you back to the burial chambers and going back into mummification and cryogenics is key. It was this knowledge which was used during the seeding of this planet, which with life by the 3 students of Ray 46 trillion years ago. And they always run up on us, where you get that time from? How you figure that out? This is what the guardian angelic hosts have presented to us. It's a round number, 46 trillion. It correlates with the 46 chromosomes that actually have to come together to make you you. It correlates with the 46 dynasties that was a mixture of what you call the Tamarians and the Sumerians that gave birth to the Egyptians, which were the Greco-Romans. We were not Egyptians. The 46 dynasties was actually a point in time where our story, our realities were being culturally diffused over. Okay? And so This is talking about records that go on as old as our DNA. And scientists cannot tell you how old DNA is. Matter of fact, they can't tell you what it is. Because only about 2% of DNA actually manifests. The rest of it, they refer to it as junk DNA. Let's throw that away. You don't know what that is. Which is why they say we, as members of humanity, only use about 10% of our brain. Because we haven't tapped into the junk. Come on? So we need the junk. Alright? So it goes on to say now, in this last part of this reading, because I want to make it clear about what we're talking about. It says, what translates the DNA messages? Alright? Because this is tying again into the bringing the body of Asaru back together. They are what we call light messengers. And these chemical light messengers have a code which have rules or a system of ma'at or order that has allowed them to survive trillions of years of nature's natural selection. The system of order which the guardian angelic masters encoded in the DNA of the human species actually aids in speeding up the evolution while protecting life from making errors in the mixture of proteins. So each generation is smarter. That's why we always say, well, these children, they come to rule. You know? And we always thought how some of us, I know sometimes I did, I would think I was so much smarter than my parents that I could get away with stuff when they couldn't figure that out. Now my children doing it to me. Right? Each generation is smarter, and it's the reason why. It says this is why the miscegenation or the mixing of your race has such detrimental effects. Because there's an actual system that's being interfered with when you introduce another group into the blood. The word begotten in the Bible, when you say the only begotten son, that means monos genos, one gene, one blood. Alright? And so we have to be careful about not mixing or watering down our seed. And that's not to say we are the original Tamarans. No. We are the remnant, which is what we're talking about today. But the essence of the ancient Africans is still in us. And if we water that down, then we become nothing. Because we are truly the salt of the earth. And they say the salt loses its savor. It's just good, only good to be walked on by people. And that's what has happened to us as a people. It says when we make reference to the genetic code and decoding, we are being literal, as it is in fact a secret language. A secret language which was designed by the Iyigi. The Iyigi are a class of guardian angelic hosts, the highest class of guardian angelic hosts. And their children, the Niteru, who became the Elohim, who became God in the Bible. They were able to store genetic instructions in the DNA and RNA, which are both made of one type of biological molecule or nucleic acid. All organisms are built from and by various types of proteins and molecules, and it is the RNA which must decode or translate the blueprint of the DNA, allowing it to manifest in the physical. The DNA gene is first copied and then edited into a record made of RNA. This messenger RNA, messenger, angelic, because that's what the word angelos means, messenger, right within your body. Messenger RNA with its own version of the gene is then read by cellular machinery, 3 letters or points at a time, while tiny transfer RNAs bring the specified amino acids that are being strung together. The great master Tahuti gave his student Imhotep the knowledge, which led Imhotep to conclude that at every turn in the double helix there is a diamond or tetrahedron shaped space bounded by its 4 corners by nucleotides. So when they talk about building the pyramids using the science of the tetrahedron, That's also how you were built. These gaps or spaces allow DNA to act as a pattern beside which the amino acids would line up based on the nucleotide combinations that are present at each twist within the helix. Even mitochondria, which are the tiny generators within all cells, have their own genetic structures, allowing them to evolve within the different species of earth creatures. The arrangement of amino acids are not accidents, but instead are important in the way in which they help minimize the impact of accidents while the DNA is being decoded. The actual amino acids vary from one another in size, shape, as well as electrical charge. And that was a lot of chemistry, biology, etc., etc. That was a lot of God. That's what God is. That's what the Nita Ruah. Now let me say it to you another way. For some people they hate science, so no problem. The DNA is like a library. And if you could think of the largest library that you ever saw, nowadays you could go to libraries and museums in London, and in France, even in Egypt, different places around the world. People have heard about the Library of Alexandria. And each one of those books are like the genes in the DNA in that library. And those books come from your ancestors and the experiences that your ancestors would have had. So much so that all of the experiences that come from your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, all the way back to the Most High, make up a countless number of books within the DNA. And the RNA is like the librarian who comes, or even like you, that comes in and decides which books are necessary for you to survive in whichever day and time that you are resurrecting in. Are we clear? And so this is very important to understand, because you cannot be anything outside of what is in each of those books. Let me say it another way. In your blood are the experiences of your ancestors. And that is what you can count on to allow for you to survive and to manifest what you're going to utilize to be great and create heaven on earth, or to not be so great and live in someone else's heaven, which will become your hell. And what today's religions have done to us is they've told us that there's a library someplace else that has some books that you should be reading, and you should ignore the books in your own library and go and read about the stories of other people and try to emulate them and help them to resurrect. But the problem is you can never be them, and so you never will resurrect. You will remain like the dry bones spoken of in Ezekiel 37 that we spoke about a few weeks ago. And that's what has happened to our people. We have remained as dry bones, and yet we watch others resurrect every year. We'll sit down and watch the Passion of the Christ, and we'll sit down and we'll celebrate a time called Easter that's not mentioned in the Bible, that we say we love so much. We'll talk about Jesus Christ and what he did, yet the very Vatican that has produced much of the information that people hold sacred has said the Shroud of Turin, which they say is the actual linen cloth that wrapped the Messiah, cannot be authenticated. This was on the news this morning. They say even though it cannot be authenticated, it still is important for the faith. It has to be important to fill their coffers. and to keep you as a battery running the story cannot be authenticated while you as a people have yet to resurrect yourself. And part of the problem is we don't feel we're supposed to be resurrected. We feel that it was only the job of Jesus or Yahshua to resurrect. But what he was simply saying was, this is how we do it. Alright, I did mine. Alright, y'all ready? Let's go. And it's like, oh, amen, praise you, hallelujah. And it's like, no. See, watch me go to heaven now. Bye. It's better that I go. Y'all will come, right? Good. Grab your cross now. Oh, no, we don't like that story. No nails for me. Didn't you die for me? No, I died for me. That's why I told you to pick up your own cross in the book of Matthew chapter 10. And so, we don't understand that those such as the Messiah, the Messiah, Yahshua Karas, who is known as Jesus Christ today, who is Jesus Christ is a representation of the Greco-Roman interpretation of Yahshua. That is Tutankhamun of Africa. They took him to Egypt, and that's where he was taught, and that's where he was groomed. When you go to Egypt, you find the story of Tutankhamun, you find the story of Haru, you find stories of actual messiahs. And again, we're not telling people what to believe, but it's been 100 years now since Marcus Garvey was talking like this. And we're still in the same predicament that we were in even 100 years ago. So when are we going to talk and be real about this thing? Or are we going to continue to play games and then have our children be mad at us? Because when they find this stuff out, and if they think that we were lying to them, dog eat your lunch. Or better yet, dog eat your heart. As it plays out in the Osarian drama, as they refer to it, the Osarian drama, where Asaru sits in the seat of judgment on Anubu, and they wave the feather, which represents Ma'at, against your heart. And so which means you judge yourself. Nobody judges you. You judge yourself. And in you judging yourself, it means you have to resurrect yourself. Amen? And so, let us now understand more about who Asaru was. Because to know how to resurrect yourself, you must understand how those before you resurrected themselves. So we go to page 232 now. And start at verse 169. And what you have to understand is when you learn about Asaru and Satuk, or they say Osiris and Set, this was watered down and became your Cain and Abel in the Bible today. Excuse me, in the Bible today. And as you begin to understand more and more about what they did, you will appreciate more and more of how you have to wake up and take your sacred mysteries back. So verse 169 reads, "But I say unto you that in time," this is from the original books of the Bible, "in time when the Adam son of Europa would attempt to write themselves into our sacred angelic mysteries." This is what they're doing. They have everybody celebrating Easter, and people don't know why it's called Easter. Ishtar, Esther is in the Bible. Esther is the only book in the Bible that the word God does not appear in. Because they would have to name these very guardian angelic hosts, and they couldn't explain them. So they pulled them out. You understand? So it goes on to say, the Adam son of Europa, the Greco-Romans, would attempt to write themselves into our sacred angelic mysteries. They rewrote the events of these beings and their genetic family lines in such a manner as to produce a myth about an unseen spirit god and devil. When instead the god and devil concepts of the Adam son of Europa or the Greco-Romans are two sides of the same coin. You can't have God without the devil, and you can't have the devil without God. The Bible says God made the devil. So who are you to get rid of him? What? Verse 170, let them learn the Qubtic ways of An-Niri, that they may be brought to atonism. We're on page 232, verse 170. This led to a point whereby mankind of Europa did rewrite the original facts of Tamarian or ancient African culture in such a manner that the guardian angelic host Qubtic, who held the pitchfork as he represented the manipulation and bringing forth of the element fire, transformed into the devil, while the guardian angelic host Asaru, who held the crook or staff or flail or rod, was transformed into the good shepherd or God, who was reborn through his son Haru, falsely called Horus, which made him Ab, which is father, and Yil, God, or Ab-El, or they say Abel, or the father of the guardian angelic host, Haru, who became responsible for grafting mortals. When you talk about grafting mortals, this goes into evolution, and so far as evolution is not the progression of a thing, but the decline of a thing. So the bloodline of the guardian angelic hosts were actually declining insofar as they were inserting their genetics into what by their standards was merely an animal, Homo erectus. And so they were evolving into a new being called today by scientists Homo sapien or Homo sapien sapien. Alright? And this is how they were being grafted. This is why they have this missing link. It ain't missing, it's right here. You just don't want to talk about it. Verse 171. For you whose genealogy has survived until the latter days, know that you are loved. Then there were those amongst mankind in Europa who realized that they couldn't let you realize that their Greco-Romanized god Zeus took on the personage of human beings in each generation, such as in the case of those called Jah-Zeus. This is why we say Yahshua, because Jesus is none other than the composite word Jah or Yah from the Tamarian and Zeus from the Greco-Romans. Jah-Zeus, as well as Alexander the Greek, whose name they placed at certain places throughout their versions of the Bible. Thus Zeus or Apep or Zuen physically became a humanoid person who could be killed. As such, they had to hide the real events of how a disagreeable did kill an agreeable, and instead said that the devil killed God. So instead of just recognizing who Asaru and Qubtic were, they made Qubtic the devil, they made Asaru God, and they said the devil killed God. And instead of Asaru, the good shepherd, being God, he becomes the son of God, who was killed for your sins. Thus he was a willing sacrifice. This was all done in order to justify the frailty of the Greco-Romanized concept called monotheism, and those who adhered to it, who also suffered from an inferiority complex, which is why they always have to point at us as Nubian Melaninites, as blacks, Caribbeans, and say what's wrong with us. Alright, and one of the saints in the Holy Qubtic Church, Francis Cress Welton, she talks about this. She talks the Cress factor is beautiful the way she lays it out, because she's like, see, they always got to find something wrong with us. They got to say we not human. They got to say we not as smart. They got to say because they don't want us to focus on them based on their inferiority complex. This is not racism. This is simply knowing who you're dealing with. Alright? Just knowing who you're dealing with. Alright? And so we move now to and bring home the message. We jump into the original 12 tribes of the scriptures. Alright? On page 46. Because we need to understand now that this Asaru, the blood of Asaru, still exists inside you today, and existed in the Messiah or the Messiah, Yahshua Christ. So on page 46, reading from verse 30, for those who have it, at the bottom. It says, "Yet the sacrificial shepherd Asaru's sacrifice for his family from amongst both the angelic host and humanity was so respected, yet the events became confusing, causing some to forget that they were originally those who were able to trace their royal lineage back to Asaru." So when we talk about bringing the body of Asaru back together, first we have to make you aware that you are part of a royal lineage. Yes? This resulted in it being said and misinterpreted that Asaru was cut up into 14 pieces, with 13 pieces being recovered and only one piece not being found, namely the penis. This was simply another way of explaining the events of these original 14 tribes of guardian angelic hosts and their progeny, who were and are in fact the royal blood seed of the sacrificial shepherd Asaru, which survived all the way down to the willing son known as the Messiah, Yahshua, whom we as Tamarans or ancient Africans welcomed home amongst us when his life was in danger, as seen in Matthew 2 verse 13, calling him Tut Ankh Amun. This can be verified in the book of Revelation chapter 3 verse 14, where Jesus is called the Amen. So he was called Tut Ankh Amun, whose line those of the Nubian Melanonite family still carry, hidden, unbeknown to many, within your very DNA. It is for this reason that the chosen earthly tribes of Ishmaelites, Israelites, and Midianites enforced the rite of circumcision, which symbolizes being in the family of Asaru, of the bloodline of the divine angelic being, Shu, all the way back to the Most High Heavenly Father, An-Neri, of whom all the prophets and seers of old were. This is what those of Babel sang of him. "Honor to you, Usair, Master of eternity, ruler of the earthly Elohim," as seen in the book of Genesis 2 verse 4, "whose names are manifold, whose forms are holy. The events of your life are found in hidden form within the world's many temples and churches, as your etheric body double, or Ka, is holy. You are the governor of Tatu, known as Bucyrus, and also the mighty one in the land of Sechem, which was later called Letopolis, the mighty one, the powerful one, holder of the shepherd's staff of office called the crook, and the wand of power called the flail, the sacred symbol of the ruler of the stars of the heavens called Sahu, mistaught as Orion, as seen in the book of Amos chapter 5 verse 8. You are the master to whom praises are ascribed in the province of Ati. You are the prince of divine food called the Nassaurian Eucharast, as seen in Numbers 6:15, located in the city of On, as seen in Genesis 41:45, or Anu, which the Greeks called Heliopolis. You are the master who is commemorated in Mati, the hidden soul, who is the master of Adu, Kurt, Elephantine, an island in the river Nile. He who sees all, as the sun stands as a testimony of An-Neri's creative power. He, Asaru, represented three beings or stages in one, humanity, thereby the riddle of the Sphinx, taken from the original stages of the birth of the sun, which is represented by a Tumre, the strength of the sun, which is represented by a Tunre, and the death of the sun, which is represented by a Munre. The companies of the earthly Elohim praise you. You, O sacrificial shepherd Asaru, are the princely ruler of the company of the earthly Elohim. The sacrificial shepherd Asaru is the establisher of righteousness and truth throughout the world by his example. You are the companion of the stars and the guide of every seraphim from amongst the Elohim. The original descendants of the Kishites migrated from the land of Kodesh. In time they did mix with the seed of Utnapishtim, also called Nuach or Noah. This is what caused his genes to become perfected, as it was a mixture of the Elohim and the Enoshites or mortals, as seen in Genesis 6 verse 9. Again, let the voice of the guardian angelic host make clear to all that the original tribe of Kish moved further in the original northern direction that is presently called southward by mundane geologists, to set up the land of Kish today, called Nubia, Sudan, and some migrated even further to the land of Old Axum, or Ethiopia, the land of the Nubians. Alright? So this Asaru is who is being praised. And the 14 tribes became 3 groups of 12 tribes. And so we end today in the book of Revelation chapter 7. And we will go into the Istanjil, which is the book of Revelation from an African perspective, or the original book of Revelation. And we'll read from verse 1, page 171. Because it is important for us to begin to understand who these tribes were and how we fit in and how we must come together to again resurrect the body of Asaru. So on page 171, the start of the paragraph that reads, "Blessings of Anere sent upon those who shall seek true faith by way of the laws, rites, rituals, and precept principles held sacred in all the divinely inspired scriptures, namely the original books of the Bible." So verse 117 is where we're at now. It says, "Hold back the north wind." Actually, let me read what the King James Version has first, and then I will read this. The King James Version in Revelation chapter 7 reads, "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." And it reads in the Istanjil, "Hold back the north wind, that shall destroy those who serve Apep or Zuin. For surely I, the scribe, disciple Tata Yahanu, the possessor of the double Asarian transient spirit, wanted to know more concerning the elite few, whose genealogy shall reach the state of 144,000 genetic experiences." So we just talked about the fact that the DNA has all these various experiences. Now we will understand how it lines up with the scriptures as we hold it today, because there are 144,000 genetic experiences. And in having these experiences, it says, whereby solving the tribal identity problems of those of the African diaspora due to the racial inferiority complexes that shall be a result of their kidnapping and wrongful enslavement. So we don't know who we are, and so we're holding on to every remnant or every piece of tribe or culture or identity that we can hold on to, and now that's beginning to separate us. And so these experiences will allow us to see past those things. It goes on to say, whereby they may prostrate during Sila, which is true prayer supplication, and receive the marked seal of spiritual prostration on their forehead. That's the mark of the Most High Heavenly One. "And I did learn that these members of humanity, who shall be purified and redeemed in the latter day, shall be born out of the genetic line of the 3 groups of 12 royal tribes of Ishmael, Israel, and Medani, keeping their personalities and natures alive." Verse 118, and if we look into the Revelation in the King James Version, is when it goes into the actual tribes now. It says, "Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. But let us now go in and understand who these tribes really were and are today. "O chosen of Anere, know ye always for a surety that in Tamare, which is ancient Africa, seals were used as a means of logging genetic origins, genetic authority, and genetic allegiance to the Most High Heavenly One, most especially at times of great emergency and strife, none more so than shall be necessary in the latter day," which is this day and time. "At that time, during the latter day, the Nassarians," alright, "the flesh and blood helpers of Anere, shall come teaching and leading through conversion members of humanity to return in groups to atonism." That's what's happening now. "And with this knowledge, remember always that in the latter day there shall be of the tribe of Yahuda, that is Iuta, and that is those who live the life of the rightly guided on earth, those that shall be protectedly sealed and registered, 12,000 in number, were formed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be dedicated always towards true faith." So the tribe of Judah is the tribe of Yahuda or Ayuta. Then there's the tribe of Reuben, which originally was the tribe of Reuben, who is the son who possesses the power of the two eyes of Re, shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be realistic and factual in their loyalty towards atonism. So this is giving you the characteristics now of these 12 tribes. And to the tribe of Baganda, or the tribe of God, who are the sisters and brothers of divinity, those that shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be those who shall utilize all their business sense and wealth towards the global advancement of atonism in the latter day. So you'll see yourself in here as we go along. The next verse in Revelation, of the tribe of Asaru was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Naphtali was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed 12,000. And in the Evangel it reads, also, verse 119, also at the appointed time during the latter day shall there be of the tribe of Yashar. Alright, so the tribe of Asaru is Yashar. Those who are straightforward, prosperous, balanced, and just in their ways, protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be happy, joyful, and cheerful to have found the true faith of atonism, so much so that they shall be able to spread the necessary gift of laughter in order to assist many in holding strong when times get beyond repair. And of the tribe of Naphtali, those whose personality is from the genetic line of Top, there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall manage to teach even those that are not necessarily of the royal tribes in such a manner as to help those not of the seed of the royal tribes to embrace atonism, while motivating them to utilize their wealth in the spread of atonism and the establishment of the many structures for the advancement of the Holy Qubtic Church. And of the tribe of the Nahil, those who vindicate, maintain, and defend true faith, there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall manage to interact in a balanced manner with those of various latter-day religious sects in such a way as to touch the hearts of many towards embracing atonism and the avoidance of being led astray. It goes on to say in the King James Version, of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Levi was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Issachar was sealed 12,000. And it goes on to say in the Evangel in verse 120, as these things were being made clearer unto myself, the scribe, disciple, Tata, Yahanu, the possessor of the double Asarian transit spirit, I was instructed to gaze as those great Tamarian, ancient African Zos, the solar biological priests and priestesses before me had done towards the celestial heavens. He began to look into the stars. And as I did such, I saw that of the tribe of Samaon, those birthed out of the waters of the great city On, there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall lead many to only hear not only the things which sound good to the ear, but more importantly the teachings of true faith, which make all who embrace them better contributors towards humanity's greatness and necessary survival. And of the tribe of Chuhanaan, or the Zosim, those who meditate or mediate during the observance of true spiritual practices, who originated in the city of Malawi, or Levi city. These became your Levites in the latter day. There shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall inspire many amongst humanity to leave the false teachings of Greco-Romanized monotheism and hold instead unto the true faith of atonism, where they shall find the disciplines that shall be necessary in the latter day to become leaders within the Holy Qubtic Church. And of the tribe of Issachar, those sent forth as a silent voice which unites all for the sake of protecting the Most High's children, there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall study and encourage many amongst those who seek true faith to study and perfect agriculture for the sake of growing and sustaining viable methods of food growth during the latter day, at a time when much famine shall afflict humanity. And then it goes on to say in the book of Revelation, of the tribe of Zabulon was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Joseph was sealed 12,000, of the tribe of Benjamin was sealed 12,000. And so this is the last verse we read out of the Istanjil. These are the last three tribes. Reading out of verse 121. And so it was that I did also realize that there were yet three more personalities and natures which shall be kept alive during the latter day. And they were of the tribe of Zed Ba'anu, the righteous souls from the city, which stand as a doorway inscribed with the beehive, which is the crystal city, which is mentioned in the book of Revelation chapter 21. Of the sixth of the Most High, the beehive of the Most High, who there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall travel across our earth as Qubtic missionaries, teaching all they encounter to seek out true faith. And of the tribe of Yasuf, or Joseph, all those who possess the sword and apron of initiation, there shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reformed from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be able to become educated in all Western ways and educational knowledge, to the point of being able to properly navigate the halls of Canaanite rule in order to open certain doors, which shall empower the Nubian Melaninite family towards the economic liberation which is necessary to bring about having a voice and influence in world affairs in the latter day. Lastly, I did see of the tribe of Ben Inu, the fiery spirit which is birthed forth from the waters of earth. There shall be protectively sealed and registered 12,000 reforms from amongst humanity, whereby they shall be successful in establishing various businesses while positively influencing all businessmen and women they encounter to support the spread of atonism through the use of balanced business practices for the greater glory of Ane Ring. And so you see, on this Resurrection Sunday, the bringing together of these 12 personalities, the bringing together of those who are part of the first resurrection, as is mentioned in the book of Revelation chapter 20 verse 6, is indeed the bringing together of the body of Asaru, which are those tribes. And those tribes are you. Those tribes are me. Those tribes are those of us who will begin to tap in to the DNA, the RNA, the chromosomes in this day and time, as we are reminded on this Resurrection Sunday who we are. Let us all be resurrected. And with that I say, Amun, Amun, Amun. Namastu.
You have been listening to the True Light Fellowship Hour, brought to you by the Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, Journey Home Group International, located Meadow Street, Bain Town, and led in the Bahamas by Pastor Cleveland W. Eneas III. If this message has been a blessing for you today, and you feel it in your heart to assist us in bringing forth this weekly message by way of advertising or otherwise, or you wish a copy of this message, we ask that you please contact us at 242-426-1148 or email us at qubticrevealer@gmail.com. That's QUBTIC revealer@gmail.com, or on Facebook, the Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, Journey Home Group International, Bahamas Branch. We bow to the divinity in you all by saying Namastu.
Eluti mingi ngana kukukateo Ukulu ya bikamwa yote wina ya bumu inanga